Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very fun team for Ultra League that also performed really well for me in Virizion, Double Electric. This is an APB team where Virizion's main role is to be good against Swampert and Steelix, so the back two have more play. I think you have to have Shadow Emperors as the safe swap because of its utility in terms of moveset, being able to force shields from Swampert, normal types, steel types, Giratina, stuff like that, and then you can pick any hard-hitting electric type. As the closer, I've gone with Shadow Raikou because look at those IVs. How can I not utilize a Shadow Raikou when I have those IVs in it? There are a few core breakers to this team in Venusaur, Tentacruel, Dragonite, stuff like that, but they are quite rare, and the ones that you do see occasionally, you do have play against with this team, as you're going to see in this video. The main problem with this team is that you don't have a good response to a lot of safe swaps because the electric types are not very good down energy against a lot of things, but this team performed really well. All three of these Pokemon got to one-shot at least one Pokemon in this video. It was a ton of fun to use. Nukes flying everywhere. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into a Pidgeot. Very bad lead for Virizion, so we swap into the Emperors. They respond with a Cobalion. The Cobalion does 5 double kicks before throwing a Sacred Sword. It takes 6 double kicks for them to get to 2 Sacred Sword. So in order to get off this Focus Blast without having to expend a shield, we have to go for the Focus Blast on bad timing, and immediately we go straight for it. Unfortunately, it's shielded. But by going for the Focus Blast, you either force shield advantage or switch advantage. Both are absolutely fine by me. They have to throw another Sacred Sword in order to take out Emperors, and then we can bring in the Virizion to farm up a ton of energy. We absolutely don't mind them just getting to a bunch of Sacred Swords on the Virizion. We're just gonna try to farm them all the way down. I don't think it's quite possible, but come out with a Stone Edge at least as they go for another Sacred Sword. I'm just gonna let them get to another one because my objective is to come out of this with a Stone Edge for the Pidgeot, which is why I really like running Stone Edge on this Virizion, especially for the Shadow Charizard, or just for the Charizard in general, as we go for the Leaf Blade in order to take out the Cobalion, and then we can go for the Stone Edge against this Pidgeot. This won't take out the Pidgeot, but it will bring them very low, and then we can bring in the Shadow Raikou afterwards, try to farm them down. We're just about not able to, and they will be able to throw a move. Both of these are resisted, but we don't want to take a Brave Bird. I call the Feather Dent, it is the Brave Bird, it does massive damage, but in the back, it's a Jellicent, and this is of course absolutely amazing. They are core broken by electric. As we go for the first wild charge, they do shield it, and we make it to the second wild charge. And you probably already guessed how much damage this is gonna do. The answer is all of it. We take out the Jellicent, and that is a very good first game. Next game, dream lead into a Tapu Fini. Our entire team likes to see it, but they bring in a Skuntank. And as I said in the beginning, the real big problem with this team, you don't have a good response to a lot of safe swaps, like Giratina, Skuntank, stuff like that. So we bring in the Raikou. This is not really a good thing to do, but it is the best of a lot of really bad options. So we go for the wild charge before they can get to another move, but they will be able to pace to the second one before we can make it to the next wild charge. I want to leave my Raikou with as little HP as possible if they no shield this to give them less farm, but I also want to get it off, of course, so we go for the wild charge. I let them get to another poison jab. You saw I waited a turn, but then we go for the wild charge. They shield it up, realizing that I'm very weak to Skuntank. We bring in the Emperors, and they're going to be able to get to another crunch to do big damage to the Emperors. As I say, there are no real good options against the Skuntank safe swap. We bring back in the Virizion. In the back, it's a Shadow Charizard. Virizion will be able to make it to a Stone Edge before they can make it to move. This Stone Edge one-shots the Shadow Charizard, and the opponent concedes the match. Next game, lead into a Charizard. Bad lead, but I kind of like it because, well, we can bring in the Emperors. They're actually not even swapping out, and we can make it to a Brutal Swing before they make it to a Blast Burn. We go for this immediately because, well, they have to shield it in case it's a Thunder Punch, so we can grab a shield, and then we can just no-shield this Dragon Claw bait, and then they're gonna swap out into a Tapu Fini. They're absolutely core broken by electric, but they will be able to make it to a Surf before we can make it to a Focus Blast. And then we can bring... I'm very much realizing they're weak to electric, but if they're weak to Emperors, they're also weak to Raikou. As we bring in the Virizion afterwards, go for a Leaf Blade. This won't take out the Tapu Fini. We can go for another Leaf Blade before they make it to the Moonblast, but we can also just shield up this Moonblast, come up with a lot of HP and a Stone Edge loaded on the Virizion, and then if they bring back in the Charizard, we can just straight up go for the Stone Edge because they're not at a Blast Burn yet. So we go for the Stone Edge as they bring in the Charizard. Do they know that we have Stone Edge? They do not. We take out the Charizard in the back. It's a Jellicent. I could have just swapped into Raikou really, but I wanted to force the shield before swapping, so we go for this Leaf Blade to do big damage to the Jellicent, make it to another Leaf Blade on the CMP tie. This will either do big damage or grab the shield, and then we can of course just let the Virizion go. I don't even think a Shadow Ball would be enough to take out. We'll never know because they serve bait and then they concede the match once they see the Shadow Raikou so core broken by Electric. Next game, lead into a Shadow, a Lowland Sandslash. They bring in a Core Breaker in Gliscor. I think I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video. Of course, Gliscor is also a massive Core Breaker, but we can't go for a Leaf Blade. They don't really want to throw energy into the Virizion because all of their moves are resisted if they're not running Aerial Ace. It doesn't look like they're going for Aerial Ace. I think they're going to be able to farm me down if I stay in, so I do have to swap out and call the move here. They have a lot of energy. We shielded. It is the Earthquake, and that call was absolutely massive because if that was a Night Slash, they would have been able to make it to an Earthquake here. As it is, this is only a Night Slash, so we can just let it go. Come up with energy on Ampharos. They bring back in the Alolan Sandslash. This is the only time I bait in this entire video, if I remember correctly. We bait, and they called it. But we can make it to another Brutal Swing. It's a little bit brutal that they call it. That they called the bait, but we can make it to another Brutal Swing to force the shield, and then they overfarm perfectly, so right before we make it to another Brutal Swing, and then they're gonna go for an Ice Punch to take out Ampharos. They come out with 6 Shadow Claws worth of energy, so we bring back in the Virizion, can shield up, or we can save the shield for Shadow Raikou. Shadow Raikou generally doesn't do well without shields, so we bring in the Raikou in the back. It's a Mandibuzz. This is of course amazing. They can make it to a move. I do think we have to let something go in this game because the Alolan Sandslash will also be able to make it to a move otherwise. So we let the Dark Pulse go. Shadow Raikou actually takes it pretty alright. Farm up to the back-to-back Wild Charge. Go for the first one into Mandibuzz to one-shot it. They bring back in the Alolan Sandslash. We go up to the back-to-back Wild Charge. Wait a turn to make the Shadow Claw register before we debuff ourselves further. Go for the Wild Charge. We lift the Shadow Claw on 1 HP to get off the second Wild Charge. After the first one grabbed the shield, this one will take out the Alolan Sandslash. And that is a very good game. Next game, very good lead for Virizion into a Greedent, but the opponent swaps into a Shadow Charizard and we can respond with a Shadow Ampharos. They will be able to make it to a Blast Burn before we make it to a Brutal Swing, so we do have to shield this up. They bait with a Dragon Claw, unfortunately. They're 4 away from the Blast Burn, so we have to go for a Brutal Swing here. We can just double shield and then farm them down, but I want to force 1 shield. If I have to expend 2 myself, we can let this go farm them down with the Raikou, which would also be a play, but if we shield this up, then we can farm them down, come out with a ton of HP and a lot of energy on Raikou. They know that their Greedent is going up against the Virizion, so when we make it to this Focus Blast, I don't think they're gonna want to shield their Greedent. We go straight for the Focus Blast and it one-shots the Greedent in the back. It's a Giratina origin. We can make it to a Brutal Swing, and this is where I decide to get a little bit too fancy. I should just swap into Raikou. Raikou can actually live a Shadow Ball, but I go up to my Brutal Swing, or right before I make it, wait 2 turns to try to catch the Ominous Wind on a Virizion. They don't fall for it. Instead, they overfarm, go for the Shadow Ball. Now we can make it to a Stone Edge, but they can overfarm with the Giratina, come up with a lot of energy here, which is really not ideal. As I say, the Raikou can live a Shadow Ball plus the Shadow Claw damage, so they don't overfarm a lot here, meaning they'll only be able to get to 1 Shadow Ball on the Raikou, but they go for the Ominous Wind, and they get the boost. And this is absolutely game deciding. A Shadow Ball only does about 63% if it's not boosted. But with the boost, the Shadow Ball from Giratina takes out the Shadow Raikou, and they overfarmed perfectly and get to another Ominous Wind right before we make it to the Brutal Swing. Very well played by the opponent. GG. Next game, lead into a Snorlax. Very good lead once again. They swap into a Giratina altered. And as I say, we just don't have a good response to this. So we bring in the Ampharos. Luckily, if they let us get to 2 Brutal Swings before they get 2 moves, 2 Brutal Swings are not enough to take out Giratina if it's a decent Giratina anyways. If it's Radar Vs, maybe. But they let us get to 2 Brutal Swings before they throw 2 Dragon Claws. Meaning if they want to make sure they can grab Switch Advantage, they have to shield this up, so now we can force a shield advantage. We won't be able to force switch advantage against the Giratina, but forcing shield advantage is the next best thing, because now we can bring in the Virizion to absorb all of this energy from the Giratina altered. They will be able to make it to a move before we make it to the Stone Edge. This Giratina altered actually goes for the Shadow Force. It does so much damage into Virizion, but now we can overfarm with Virizion, go for the Stone Edge. This will take out the Giratina altered. We can bring in the Raikou on the Charizard that comes in. They bring in the Snorlax. Snorlax gets to 3 moves 1 turn quicker than Raikou gets to 3 moves. But we got a little bit of an energy advantage, meaning we will be able to get to 3 wild charges before they get to 3 body slams. So we load up to the back-to-back wild charge, throw the first one into the Snorlax. This does big damage to the Snorlax. We're not able to make it to 3 wild charges before we can farm down, and because we were ahead on energy, that means they're not getting to the 3rd body slam either. So after landing 1 wild charge, we farm down the Snorlax, come out with 2 wild charges for the Charizard, get off the first one, they're not at a move, they shield it up, get to the second one, the Charizard is on 100 HP, but you've probably already guessed it, the wild charge one-shots the Charizard, and that is a very good game. Next game, lead into a Shadow Dragonite, a bit of a core breaker, we swap into the Ampharos. A lot of people like to try and catch the move from Ampharos here, I found. They try to catch the move on Registeel. That is a mistake, opponent. We overfarm, we go straight for the Focus Blast. A lot of people also expect the Trailblaze Brutal Swing combination. This opponent doesn't shield the Focus Blast, it does big damage. And now we can farm them all the way down before they make it to 2 moves. If you were ever in this situation, I would suggest you undercharge the Focus Blast a little bit, because as you saw, we didn't get like maximal farm. We could just shield once and then farm even more if you undercharge the Focus Blast slightly. They were able to make it to a Dragon Claw. I probably should have gone for the Brutal Swing immediately there, but we shield up the Dragon Claw and then we can go for the Brutal Swing into this Dragonite, and then I make another mistake afterwards. I should go for the Focus Blast here because it is enough to take out the Dragonite. We're only getting off 1 move anyway. So if they go for the catch, if they don't go for the catch, we take out the Dragonite with the Focus Blast anyways, because it would be enough. If they go for the catch, the Focus Blast is almost always the best option, as we bring in the Virizion onto this Tapu Fini. If they get in 1 Water Gun, the second Wet Leaf Blade is on CMP, so we go for it. It is on the CMP. I didn't think they got in that one Water Gun. I didn't see it, but apparently they did, so it was a CMP. Luckily, they have very good IVs on their Tapu Fini, meaning we win the CMP. And the Moonblast also barely doesn't take out the Virizion. Now we can bring in the Raikou, farm the Tapu Fini all the way down. We don't come out with the Wild Charge, meaning the Dragonite will be able to outpace to a move. Shadow on Shadow. Will this KO the Raikou? Raikou is actually a lot more bulky than you might think. It doesn't take out the Raikou. We make it to the Wild Charge. They don't have any shields remaining. This takes out the Shadow Dragonite. And that is another very good game. Next game, very good lead into Steelix. They swap into a Gliscor. We respond with the Ampharos. As long as you're quick here, you should be able to win the 2 shields at the very least. I do like to shield up the first one, because if they land a Liquidation, it does a lot of damage, and it does become quite awkward, and then we can go for the Brutal Swing. If they have X-Scissor, they are at it now, and if they have like bad IVs, they can win CMP. I don't want to risk it. The safe play is simply to shield twice, shield up the second Liquidation, and then we can farm them all the way down afterwards. Usually you want to go for 2 Volt Switches against a 3-turn move, but otherwise, if we did that, we would have gone up to over 100 energy, so we go straight for the Focus Blast. It does so much damage to the Steelix. Wasn't Steelix supposed to be bulky? Apparently not. We try to catch, or we try to snipe them with Virizion. Unfortunately, they bring in their own Virizion. We go for the Leaf Blade. For some reason, they shield up the first move from Virizion into their own Virizion. Luckily for us, it was because we only have Leaf Blade and it doesn't really do a lot of damage. This is of course a matchup where I wish I had Sacred Sword, but it's actually not that big of a difference, because Leaf Blade is just a much better move, really one of the best moves in the game, as we go for another Leaf Blade after overfarming a little bit. And we can make it to another one on the CMP, but the opponent, I think, might have played into the CMP knowing that they have very high attack on their Virizion. Now we can bring back in the Ampharos, because we know we have the Brutal Swing loaded, we know we win CMP. This won't quite take out the Virizion, but it will force them into going for the Leaf Blade into the Ampharos. The Steelix is on 4 Dragon Tails, meaning it's 4 away from the Earthquake. 12 turns. It takes 12 turns for the Raikou to get to a Wild Charge, so we will be able to outpace them to the Wild Charge before they make it to the Earthquake, and this will of course take out the very low health Steelix, and that is another very good game. Next game, lead into Gliscor. This is actually not a bad matchup, especially not with Stone Edge, but we have 2 better responses in the back, so we bring in the Ampharos, and they respond with a Giratina. Up energy, this is actually fine, because we will be able to get to 2 Brutal Swings before they make it to 2 moves, meaning we will be able to force a shield. Giratina does win the 0 shield scenario, but if they no shield this and I shield, I might be able to force a switch advantage, so they don't really want that to happen. As I actually think I misplayed a little bit, I should have probably just thrown before they did. because I could. But we can make it to this Brutal Swing, and then I make a very nice play. If they no shield, I want to leave them with more health to give a massive farm down to my Virizion. But they do decide to shield it, which is why I undercharged it. I wanted to leave them with more health so I can farm them down, come up with Stone Edges for the Goliathopod. But they shield it, then they make it to a Dragonclaw, make it to another Dragonclaw. This Giratina is very spammy. But we can overfarm a lot with Virizion, make it to the Stone Edge on this Giratina. This won't quite take out the Giratina, which is actually a good thing for me, because now I get in one more double kick. They do make it to another move, which, I mean, a little bit annoying, but now we should be 2 double kicks away from the Stone Edge. They're 4 away from the move of Goliathopod, so we farm up to the Stone Edge, wait a turn to make sure it's not caught, go for the Stone Edge into Goliathopod, we grab the shield, bring in the Raikou, 2 shields up, Shadow Raikou is about to go to town, we shield up the X-Scissor, and then they bring in a Registeel. It takes 30 turns for the Registeel to make it to 2 Focus Blasts. 30 divided by 4 is 7.5, so we will be able to safely go for 7 Volt Switches in total with Raikou before throwing the second Wild Charge, because 2 Wild Charges are enough to take out this Registeel. So we can do 2 more here and then go for another Wild Charge. This will take out the Registeel. It's all coming down to how much energy does the Goliathopod have in the back. As we are debuffed like crazy, we do outpace the Goliathopod. The Goliathopod is a water type. You already know the Wild Charge takes out the Goliathopod, and that is another crazy sweep by a Shadow Raikou. Next game, lead into a Shadow Swampert. Amazing lead. But then they swap into a Cobalion. And this is of course a good matchup, but I was really confused. I didn't really know what to do, not gonna lie. Because we want Virizion here, but we also want to save Virizion. So what I decided to do is chip the Cobalion with a Leaf Blade. I really want to save the Virizion, as I say, and then do some more double kick damage. Take 1 more Sacred Sword on the Virizion, and then I'm gonna swap out into the Ampharos. Maybe I could have gone for 1 more Leaf Blade to put them a little bit lower. As it is, we get a big farm down, but they will also be able to make it to 2 moves on the Cobalion as they go for the first Sacred Sword to do about half to the Ampharos, meaning we have to shield the second one in order to keep switch advantage, which we absolutely have to do. But we also get a big farm down on Ampharos as they're not able to make it to another move. We come up with a lot of energy. Unfortunately, in this situation, we don't have Trail Blaze, but we have the next best thing for Swampert. We have Focus Blast, and this might not be super effective, but Shadow on Shadow does massive damage. And we can farm the Swampert all the way down, come out with a Brutal Swing for the Charizard as well. This will either grab a shield or do big damage. It grabs a shield, and now we can bring in the Raikou on the Charizard. This is actually not over, because if the Charizard baits, it might be able to come out of this with a lot of HP. So we can shield up the first move. It's only the Dragonclaw that do 1 more Volt Switch, go for the Wild Charge. If they shield this still, they're going to be able to get to a Blast Burn to take out the Raikou, which is not ideal. They shield it up, go for the Blast Burn into the Raikou. This will take out the Raikou. Luckily, we saved a bunch of energy on Virizion, so we can do 1 more double kick to throw on good timing. Very important, especially when it's not important at all. And then go for the Stone Edge into the Charizard. Next game, lead into a Shadow Alolan Sandslash, and they swap into a Giratina, a Dragon Breath Giratina this time, which is better because we're going to be able to get to 2 Brutal Swings before they make it to 2 Dragonclaws. But it's worse because they're going to be able to farm us down if they shield up this Brutal Swing and land 1 Dragonclaw and then come out with a lot of energy. So we can make it to another Brutal Swing to force the shield from the Giratina, but now we're 3 Volt Switches away from the next Brutal Swing. So the opponent just farms us all the way down. The Giratina has a lot of energy. You know the drill. We farm, or we take the energy on Virizion. All of the energy, they go for 1 Dragonclaw, they go for another Dragonclaw, but then we can overfarm with Virizion. I think they're 9 turns away from the next Dragonclaw, if I remember correctly. So we go up to the CMP tie with the Stone Edge, and then we go for it. We do win the CMP tie. We take out the Giratina in the back. Oh, I should not have gone for that double kick. They bring in the Deoxys. They go for 7 counters. Then they go for a move. I think I'm getting fast move down if I take 1 charge move with Raikou. Maybe I should have let this go. They bring in the Alolan Sandslash. They throw 5 Shadow Claws. I thought they might want to go for the Drill Run, but no, they go for a move after 5. We still have to shield it. It's only a nice punch. We need to come out of this with energy, but we also have to throw immediately because we're at 100 energy. So we have to go for an undercharge. We go for the undercharge. It is the perfect undercharge as we can farm them down afterwards. Do 1 more Wild Switch. They're at Volt Switch. They're at the Psycho Boost now, so we have to throw another move. Unfortunately, you need 100 energy to be at a Wild Charge and a Shadow Ball, so we have to settle for the Wild Charge. This is just not going to do enough damage. Bring in the Virizion. They go for the Psycho Boost into the Virizion. This will take out the Virizion, and now they can counter down the Raikou. Very close game, but GG. Next game, lead into another Dragonite. We bring in the Ampharos. I don't want them to catch, so we're going to overfarm instead. They're actually just overfarming, and then they're going for a move. Again, I tried to really throw an unpredictable timing. I thought it would be obvious for me to throw one more and then go for a Brutal Swing. And also here, it's very obvious I'm going to throw, so I actually wait a turn after getting to the Brutal Swing to make sure it's not caught, or like to make it a little bit more or less predictable. But we grab both shields from the Dragonite. They must be really weak to Electric. So you already know where we're going to tank all of this energy that the Dragonite accumulated. They bring in the Poliwrath, they save all the energy on the Dragonite, but I'm thinking this is probably the matchup that Virizion wants to see. As we saw earlier, Raikou can live one charge move from the Dragonite, so I'm thinking if they're weak to Electric in the back, we want to have Virizion here, we can shield one of the moves from Dragonite, and then we can use Raikou to take out the rest of the team as we make it to another Leaf Blade on the Poliwrath. I was thinking the Dragonite was so low that if they bring it back in, we can go for the Leaf Blade on the CMP. But instead they bring in the Tentacruel, so probably not really necessary to go for this Leaf Blade, but we're gonna bring in Raikou. They do one more Poison Jab, meaning there are 2 Poison Jabs. It takes 8 for them to get to a Brine, which is the only move or the quickest move that's gonna be able to do any serious damage, because Acid Spray is of course not. So we can overfarm quite a lot because Tentacruel is very bulky, so we want as much Volt Switch damage in before we go for the Wild Charge to make sure the Wild Charge is enough to take out the Tentacruel. And that is another good game. Next game, into another Shadow Load and Sandslash. They bring in a Shadow Charizard, and we bring in a Raikou. Oh no, we bring in the Ampharos. They let us get to the Brutal Swing before they make it to a move, which they of course have to shield. Now we have shield advantage, and I'm thinking, if I no shield the Blast Burn, we have shield advantage, and we can farm them down with Raikou. If I shield the Dragon Claw, I'm in an incredible, or if I no shield the Dragon Claw, I'm in an incredible position. So we no shield the Dragon Claw, now we can shield the next one, and then farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy. We can do 2 more Volt Switches, and then make it to the Focus Blast on this Alolan Sandslash. Do they know? They do not. We one-shot the Alolan Sandslash, but Raikou, or Ampharos, is not done there. It even makes it to another Brutal Swing on the Goliathopod, takes out the Charizard, takes out the Alolan Sandslash, takes out half of the Goliathopod as well. Ampharos carrying completely in this game. We bring in the Raikou. Just, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm letting both of these moves go for some reason. Just to show off. Raikou got the defense dropped. It did lift the liquidation. It also left the RLAs. An absolute bulky beast Raikou, of course. That isn't a good game. That was the last battle for today. And overall, I don't know if you could tell by the excitement in my voice throughout this video, but I don't remember the last time I had so much fun playing this game. And also, I went massively positive, finishing way above the veteran rank with this team. I don't know if I can recommend it for climbing though. It worked well for me, but it is very difficult to use, and I did also face a lot of teams that were weak to Electric, so maybe I got a little bit lucky, but it works for me. Maybe give it a go. It's fun if nothing else. Other than that, fun fact of the day, a little bit from like out of left field, but Superior beats Registeel in the 2-shield scenario in Great League. It gets walled, so you wouldn't think so. It also only takes 1 Vine Whip for it to beat Registeel in the 1-shield scenario. Just cool fun fact. Other than that, if you liked the video, remember to leave a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.